Women in Islam have been terrorized by people who would not read the Quran, who would hold the authority of a pulpit and preach rubbish. In Islam, you're a queen in your home. If your work is too stressful, you will demand assistance, and your husband, part of his provision is to provide that assistance, which means that you're not supposed to sweat and die in the kitchen to prove a point. I'm not supposed to wash my husband's clothes. In Islam, I am not supposed to be in an accommodation with my in-laws.
Social media is on fire again. And this time, it's the washing machine that is in trouble. A viral video featuring an Islamic cleric has sparked widespread laughter, outrage, and serious debate after he advised women not to use washing machines to wash their husbands' clothes, warning that doing so could bring misfortune upon their children. Yes, you heard that right. According to the cleric, pressing the start button on your washer might be pressing the pause button on your child's destiny. The clip has taken over timelines, with many users asking whether tradition has now declared war on modern appliances. So we ask you this morning, is this a matter of faith, culture, or just pure comedy? Ladies and gentlemen, what do you make of this advice? And should washing machines be worried? What is the relationship between a washing machine and a spiritual consequence? We would like to hear your thoughts, so join us on 0201-635-2013 or 0902-416-3440. You can also tweet us at TVC Connect using the hashtag YourViewTVC, and we're streaming live as usual on YouTube at TVC Entertainment. Ladies of your view, is it comedy or is it serious? What do we think?
It was not comedy for me.
Washing machine.
Women in Islam have been terrorized by people who would not read the Quran, who would hold the authority of a pulpit and preach rubbish. They are made to honor suffering. Made to, if you see, and you know, while I was young, thank God I was born by a scholar and I grew up in the books of my dad. I would have thought that I don't want to be a Muslim. It was so beautiful to suffer. It was, you know, you will make heaven, or your children will not, that's the word they use. If you don't suffer enough, you take away the grace of God from your children. And it did not have any Quranic backing or hadith. But because of my father's books, and I started to read the Quran, and I said to myself, I said, if I don't marry under Islamic law, they would have used Bajo for me. Because the law was so explicit about, you know, who next of kin is. They are mentioned along family bloodline, your right to inherit, all the beautiful things that made Islam look like a feminist religion. I read from the books. And they had Quranic backings and sayings of the Prophet to back them. But if you listen to the man on the pulpit telling you, as a woman, you have to serve another man for your life to have grace. In Islam, you're a queen in your home. If your work is too stressful, you will demand assistance, and your husband, part of his provision is to provide that assistance, which means that you're not supposed to sweat and die in the kitchen to prove a point. But we did not read it in the books. We heard from the men on the pulpit how it was the most laudable thing. In fact, one of them was telling me that if you wake up in the morning, just go on your 2 knees for your husband, and you would have gained grace. And I grew up like that. I remember when my dad gave one sermon then in Nymah Estate. If most of the youth members, some of them are my age now, are watching, they would remember this particular sermon because it caused a fight. And it was that, okay, because you have 4 daughters now, you want to come and turn this religion to a religion of women. And between him and another scholar, there was a major fight. And my father was like, we're reading the books. He said, no, you are looking for rights for your girls. It was that bad. And I see this man. Nobody noticed that I did not quote a Quranic verse. He was just talking. Koda, 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 koda. That's how they talk. They talk with so much authority. The women who are seated, who have not read the books, who don't know their religion, who need an interpreter of religion. That's why I don't have any affair follow. I don't follow any group. If it is not in the books, I cannot find it. Thank you very much. I don't want to know it. Because, you know, they restrict these rights. Force women. I'm not supposed to wash my husband's clothes. In Islam, I am not supposed to be in an accommodation with my in-laws. I am entitled to full privacy.
Wow.
If my husband was following the Quran, That's a
that's why I just love your view. Do you understand? Because Tokwe and I are likely to have taken it just face value what he said, and we'll say, wow, why would Islam do that to women? But we have both of you that can give us some perspective. Let me give you comedy.
So last Ramadan,
save the comedy. Let me give my opinion.
Okay. All right.
So I don't understand the spiritual, I mean the Quranic context, but I heard that man, and I could, from what he was saying, know that he wasn't speaking for the religion. He was speaking based on his experience, and we are reiterating things we've heard. You know how there was this something went viral last year where a man said that his mom always cut off the head and the tail of a fish. And he said his grandmom did it, his great-grandmom did it. So he just started doing it, only to realize that they didn't have big frying pans. Everybody, the size of the frying pan was so small that for the fish to fit in, they have to cut off the head and the tail. And now they've gotten big frying pan, but they still cut off the head and the tail because they did not understand why they were doing it. There are many things that people reiterate now, not without understanding where it came from. Just because they said it over and over again, you too, you are saying it, and you say it with such authority. And it's so sad when people that have such influence as spiritual leaders, and I'm putting quotes around it because really, your spiritual leader is subject to your own interpretation of your personal relationship with God. Not that you take whatever they say, hook, line, sinker, but we know in reality within Nigeria that people take whatever the spiritual leader says, hook, line, sinker, like this person has heard from God, and what they have said is now our reality. Hearing that man, I feel sad about the number of lives that will be distorted, whose mindsets will be rearranged and taken back to 2019, not even 2018,
16.
We're having conversations that should bring about intellectual growth. We're talking about Nigeria moving into producing. We are buying ammunition. Some countries said they're not buying and they are producing within their country because they have created a level of critical thinking. This is not critical thinking. This, in common sense, does not even make sense. Talk less of now affiliating it and attaching to religion. Please. Thank you, Nymah. God bless you for the knowledge that you have. God bless your father. May he so continue to rest in peace. Because it is important that we are educated. If we don't have education and knowledge, we would listen to anything like this and just go ahead and implement it thinking they know better because they hear from God or they have read the Quran more than me. But thank God you read your own. Please educate your children for themselves. And if you've read this video and some part of you is catching clues to believe it, I beg. Let's use this now.
They'll quote him now. Yeah. Well, some men will quote him in their homes.
Yes, but hopefully our conversation will change people as well.
Things,
Ramsey.
Okay, so Islamically, when you hear something like this that you know is misleading, the first thing you say is "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim," meaning that it means that this is the word from words from Shaitan, because this is not even in any of the books. The Hadith he mentioned, there's nothing like that in the Hadith. In the Quran, there's nothing like that in the Quran. And I like the fact that when something like that comes up, we come and make and educate the public and tell the public that there's nothing like that. If for anything, the Quran favors the women. But every single time you see any message or anything from any alpha, you find out that, or any of the imams or anybody, you find out that they're always saying, some of them, they are always saying something, in favor of men rather than in favor of women. Now, look at this. This one, what I'm going to say is that he's just a comedian. I think he's looking for clout. Okay. He's looking for people to follow him so that he can gain followers and, anything of that sort. But what he has said, I'm trying to understand it because what he's just trying to say is that there's a part in the Quran where it says that anything you do to your husband you'll be rewarded for it. Okay. So when you are doing it, it will look like as if it's stress or something, but you are going to be rewarded by God. You understand? Little things, just as good as good morning to your husband, you get rewarded. Okay. So in Islam, it's just like every woman wants to pack all that glory, just want to pack all of that. But now they are now
twisting it to
the whole
suffer
thing and
people.
mean that, yeah, but you have a choice. You can choose not to do any of those things because it's still part of your right as a woman not to do them. And you know, the hadith that he mentioned is the life of the prophet. It's not stated in the Quran itself.
Okay.
That this is, you know, so many things. It's the life of the prophet. So there are some things that the prophet did to make his life better. That doesn't mean that it's stated in the Quran.
So it's something that you could take as to influence your life.
Exactly.
You know, but also we need to put into context, I guess, the times that these things happened. But for me, you know, as much as it sounded funny, as much as it was comedic, there are people who, as you have all mentioned, would take him seriously because whether we like it or not, you know, there are some people giving their education, their exposure, you know, these are people that they look up to and they respect. So I would like us to take it away from the comedy and just look at it, maybe the symbolism of what it means. And I'm asking you people here, bear with me as I draw this picture. What if he's just using washing machine, giving his own level of exposure? What if, because a part of me, as far as distasteful as it sounded, also, is he just trying to encourage women to just do the best that they can for their families? That in today's families, we hear stories of people not really committing, you know, in marriages, and we are quite materialistic. Is he asking women to put materialism aside? But in his own example, the example that he used, obviously I agree with all of us, is quite misleading. But could we go beyond that and see if he's trying to encourage women to be more committed to marriage?
No, this person wasn't encouraging women. This person
came out and
you
said,
see, when you abuse influence, what he's done is very damaging. And I have seen families reunite. I talked about a woman whose husband just walked away and said to her, sort yourself. And she's been like that for almost 10 years now. For more than 10 years, in fact. She was left with 3 girls. And he just moved on. A Muslim marriage. The husband is just like this man, who preaches also. When you abuse influence and you say things without caution, you're not saying it to grow and build homes. You're saying it to endanger one gender. In Islam, every responsibility run concurrently. Muminina, muminin, the believing men, the believing women. God did not, separate one person. He did not degrade any gender in the Islamic ruling. And one of the roles is not like women don't owe, but the duties and rights run concurrently. A woman has duties towards her husband, so her husband has towards her, particularly that of provision, care, and loving. Even the enjoyment of marriage was built on mercy. So if I need to wash till my knuckles peel, as my husband showed me mercy, read the Quranic verse. I'm trying to remember the Arabic word for it. Allah says, love in tranquility and mercy, when he was enjoining Muslims to marry. When you marry a woman, you bring her into your house, give her a home beautiful enough to love and thrive in, and show her mercy. Meaning is that you go the mercy for her and the pity for her. Let me speak pidgin. Because, I am not claiming to be a scholar, even though I have a combined honors in common law and Islamic law. I don't do that. I tread carefully because I don't reach fatwas. But when people stand like this and abuse the pulpit to preach things like this, a lot of people do lazy religion, where somebody will interpret it, so I will just do it. You will just come home and you want to live the life. The Afar that I met that he told you, you should be kneeling down and crawling after me when you serve me food. In Islam, you should be, when you wash my clothes, you should be doing like this. You will wash it. It is your duty. I washed my husband's clothes when I married. This was a sign of love, because my language of love is act of service.
You are servicing somebody.
Then one day, I received a call that you have been spoiling my singlet. Somebody said the person washing it that is spoiling it. I say, It's okay, never you wash again. I said, thank you, I've been freed. Till tomorrow, I don't even bother.
You don't need
how you sort it, it's your business. But if it was a religion deduction from God, you don't think I will go and buy more bleach and find softer soap to wash it? Because it's not, I did it out of love. And I always say it, things I do for you out of love, they are not religion. But the things I deserve, religious-wise, I'm going to press your neck and collect it. Because what Islam has done is that to ensure that I guard the 2 openings, which are some of the saying of, one of the strongest sayings I learned growing. is that I do not have needs outside of my husband.
What we're saying here, is it really...
You will not preach that one. You will not preach to people how to perform Salah correctly. When you mount the pulpit, you will not teach men how to show mercy and kindness to their wives. But you will tell the women how they will not see God's paradise. Let me tell the man that God also said, those who invent a lie, when the tafsir of that verse was, it said, the Prophet ﷺ said then, if you invent a lie against Allah, take a seat in hellfire. So if he knows hellfire and washing machine are in the same sentence, you should remember that it's a lie.
So,
and the hellfire is in one sentence.
I like what you're saying, that let's even take away, let's try and see a positive spin to what he had in mind.
Let's put in context the Nigerian who is not so educated, not so exposed, but has met religion and is trying to express it in the way he understands.
Me wey go school no claim authority.
No
best we have now you wey not so exposed claim authority enough to use influence to ruin homes.
Exactly. So we already one of
that's
the
why you should not
all of us established that there was misinformation here. That a misinformation was passed from a pulpit where it shouldn't come from, that undermines and belittles and puts us behind as women. We all agree on that. However, we're looking at it again and saying, okay, let's say that he did not know much and he was trying to use an example. I've heard people, even in the past, when we started the show, I've heard stories of people saying that, oh, teach your child to wash manually. That even if they would always have washing machine, they should be taught how to wash with their hand. And that was from the mindset of, these are life skills. You might find yourself in Antarctica, or you find yourself in the desert and there's no washing machine there, but you already know that I can wash and spread and put things together. It's resourceful survival skills. So, but I had the opinion that my child would always be in a place where there's power. Washing machine makes life easy. I can't remember the last time I washed with my hand, so why would I start teaching my child how to wash
by hand?
And till date, I'm sure if my children know how to wash by hand, it is grandma. God bless you, grandma. It's not from me. But that mindset, somebody will look at it and say that I'm spoiling my child, another person will say I'm training my child. So this might be, if you take out the religious authority this man has to influence everybody listening not to think, which is what happens. Whenever we listen to spiritual people, we don't think, we don't put critical thinking in place. That is where this becomes a sacrilege. But if it is in terms of me advising my mentees to say that, every service you do to your husband, God rewards it. When you press washing machine, when the man sees how you are laboring, he will go out, even God will bless your labor. That is local sense. So, but when you put it on a pulpit, it takes it from being local sense to an injunction, an instruction, and a yoke and burden on the women. And we have struggled for generations to remove the yoke that women have carried for so long. We are getting to a place where we no longer carry that yoke, and Oga wants to set us back to 18-something. No. In fact, so common sense analysis of it can be put on face value. However, I feel that it is why in a generation where women are finally breathing, so we cannot have statements like this set us back. From the posting on social media to the comments to anybody supporting it, I look at you and put you all in the same WhatsApp group. Please, we don't need your mindsets and ideology polluting this environment that has empowered women to the extent that we are in right now.
Okay, so you were saying something like maybe he used it as an example. You can't use that as an example and use something as sensitive as religion to and he was even quoting and he was even quoting a part in the hadith that's where it says this.
You know, say hadith, you say not be when you say do you say report? I just told you this morning my son's assignment was hadith 34 Nawawi collection, which means I know the 40 collections.
So which
did he tell us which collection? Did he tell us which book he's reading from?
In the hadith. He didn't say it was.
He not talk, he just speak.
He just speak.
And so you can't even use something like that as sensitive as religion to express, to say things like that. You understand? Because at the end of the day, just like people have just all mentioned, somebody in the home now, somebody will be there and be like, oh yeah, go and wash my clothes.
Did you hear washing
machine? And then you now say, did you hear what that Afa said? I realized that we also have it even in the Hausa community where they use comedy to pass their message. Because me, as far as I'm concerned, it's comedy that he's trying to do. Because the way he was, even when there was somebody that was holding the fan and following him, and even that fan, is he supposed to use that fan? So the
he should use his hands.
he should use his hand or use one paper and be fine.
When he gets to his own daughter, you see the rule will change.
Even we have it in the
one.
house. We have like I follow like 2 of our malams that usually they preach and they use comedy. But at the end of that preaching, you find out that there's something that they mean at the end of it. Like for example, there was one that was he preached something and he was saying that he was trying to say that when you go to vote, make sure you vote right. It's your right to vote. Vote for things that will improve your well-being. And he was now talking about the politicians, that most of the politicians don't even believe that they can die. Do you understand? As in death is part of life. That you see them in Rusa Motochi, that means in big cars, and then they come together.
They forget mortality,
and then they will now start saying that that he was now describing the cars as cars that you can sit down on the dining table and eat this kind of good cars. And then they will go and sit down. If you hear their conversations, they are not saying, how come he died? Then they will not say, he went to a quack doctor. Yeah, I told him he would have gone to Germany for his health. He would have been alive. That means, so what he was trying to say, using that as, because it was fun when he was saying it, what he was trying to say is that because you have so much money, you don't even believe in the natural things that can happen.
I get you that even if you're trying to become funny about it, you should still be factual, as well.
It, yes.
But let's take a call from Ola. Ola is calling from Abuja. Good morning, Ola.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yes, I just want to add my perspective to what the cleric said.
Okay.
I think the cleric is not a comedian, but from the things I've been able to garner, he is someone who does not have a proper communication skill. But I believe there's something that he wanted to pass across, that he doesn't have the skill to pass that information across. And it is that maybe he has observed that some men who do not have the resources or the capacity to afford a washing machine, their wives are putting pressure on them to get washing machine, and maybe they are saying they cannot wash with their bare hands. And so him, in trying to diffuse that mentality, has now come up with this, trying to back it up with the Quran, So I think there's something very key that he wanted to communicate, but didn't know how to communicate it. Thank you.
Let me quickly say something, because when somebody can call and is rationalizing this, it means that people would go to their household now and start having.
That's why I wanted to
respond.
People would forward this video now to their wife to say, see, they have told you, they are pressuring me to buy washing machine. I had a conversation with someone. I have 2 staff. One was about to get married. One was already married with 2 children. And she was telling me that, I didn't check my phone because Saturdays are my days for washing. I said, Saturdays are your day for washing, as in how? She said, I wash on Monday. I wash for like 12. I said, how are you washing?
What's she washing?
She's washing.
What? She's
washing her children's clothes, washing everything in the house with her hand. I said, God forbid. That was 2 years ago. I said, this new year, 2024, you're entering in, you will buy washing machine. You will buy, do you have a deep freezer? No. I say, I put it as a goal. And as God will have it, before the end of the year, the washing machine, the deep freezer, all of those she acquired within the year. Why? Because somebody exposed her to the fact that this would upgrade your quality of life. It's not in the labor you are laboring. If your wife is asking you pass for washing machine, it is not to tell her that there is honor in labor. It is to make more money and ask God to bless you to buy the washing machine.
Let's get Yakub. Let's get Yakub first. Yakub is on the line. Good morning, Yakub.
Good
I'm making my own
morning.
point.
Sister Nymah, good morning. You did well. First and foremost, can you listen to me?
We can hear you
clearly.
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, Sheikh Jackman, he is not an comedian. He's one of the scholars that even I particularly followed him.
Okay.
And then I listened to him very well. And then he always gives lecture every day on his alcohol. On social media, he has a page, which I do follow. But having saying that, I totally agree with the last caller because Sheikh Jackman, he, as I said earlier, is very, very knowledgeable in Quran, and then he knows what he's saying. But for me, it is not that when
a scholar or an alpha pass a message to you as a Muslim, you cannot just follow blindfolded. It can't happen, because if you really know what you are doing, in fact, it will be interesting to you to know that it is yesterday that I come across this very particular video that I'm still looking at. And then guess who brought this video to me? He's a lawyer. He's a friend of mine. He's a lawyer. And then he's a Christian. The guy just listened to it, and then he left his home, and all the way, he drive all the way from his house to my office. And then he now showed me this. When I listened to it, I said, come, and this is not right. I cannot totally agree with Sheikh Jackman on this. But I'm very, very sure today, in his hardcore, he's going to be clarify this. And then let me even say this. Al-Quran says, Al-Jahalu Qawwamina ala Nisa. Even that very particular word that Quran used, it is when if you say, okay, I'm the head of the family and this and that, it is because you are providing for that family. If you fail to provide the need, you clothing them, you give them food, you give them education, you give them all necessary things that your family use. That fast is not for you as a man. Because if you can be able to provide for your family, you can claim that, yes, I'm the head of the family, yeah, fine. But if you fail to do that, that very particular fast, it is not for you. Then, another thing is this, during the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam time, there's a lot of things that he did that you cannot even try it at this time. Let me say this. That time, is there any plane? If you want to travel all the way from your country to Mecca to perform Hajj, then they were using legs to work and all that. But Quran mentions some certain things that in the nearest future, the plane is going to come in place so that you guys can use it. So that time, even during the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they are not using spoon. There's no spoon. Are you not telling me that if I use spoon today, I'm going to hellfire? Yes. So the issue is this. The last caller said it. I'm very, very sure some of us that is followers, we are going to question, because in Islam, you cannot follow any alpha blindfolded. You know what you are doing. Some of us will question it today on his call, because if you mention that in that video, it was not really mentioned any of this. But today in his call, we are going to put it to him. Shay, please tell us where this is. And then if it is missed another thing, he will be able to tell us. But as I said earlier, it is not a comedian, it is a scholar. He knows what is doing.
So thank you, Yakub, because we have to go. Thank you, Yakub. I like that he's asking that they would make sure he's accountable for what he has said, for those that have a better understanding.
No, he says they are his followers. Know what an ACO is?
Okay.
The lecture series he does. On social media, he does that. They follow him. Okay. That they are going to go and question him. They're not saying they will not continue to follow him. I am not a follower of him, but when you come back,
let us go on a short break. When we come back, me and Nymah will answer some questions. We'll do some Q&A.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thank you for staying with us. Nymah,
over to you.
Over to you.
So the first caller mentioned that, he's trying to preach something, and then he did not have vocabulary enough for it. The point is, he's trying to force a gender which is destructive to society, to entrench patriarchy, so that one gender continues to be in service for the eternity. It's dangerous what he has done. And I do not agree with Yakub that he's a scholar, because a scholar uses the Quran to better society. Let's even say the societies that they claim Islam came from. Would this preaching that he's done, will it thrive, will it fly there? The women in the Saudi of Saudis, do they wash and slave? Women who get paid to breastfeed their own babies?
Yes.
Are you joking?
Honestly.
The Prophet ﷺ maintained a monogamous relationship in his first marriage, and he did not, I always say, the women around the Prophet, my own role model among the Prophet's wife is Khadija, because she was a endowed woman. She was rich. She had all her properties. She was allowed to live her life, and she was honored even in death by her husband. And you will come and you will preach, and you pretend you don't have the sirah, you don't have the stories of the people of the Prophet to preach it, and then you call the person a scholar. Okay. It's dangerous what you do. The Prophet, so, hold on, Miriam. The Prophet ﷺ maintained his own home. Meaning is that he catered to his wife. He tended, and he even washed and cleaned his own by himself. So is the man telling men in their marriages that when your singlet and your shirt is done dirty, carry a put for washing machine by yourself, and if you cannot wash it by washing machine, wash it by yourself, as opposed to putting the duty on another person? Did the Quran make a woman kawamuna in any way? The duty is a woman who owns her husband is as to her body in Islam. to honor him by our body, to not expose our openings to another person, to guard his doors.
Okay.
And to have his children and not to bring in illegitimacy into his lineage. So what are you saying? Are you preaching that as opposed to preaching, oh no, grind pepper by stone, do this and this? These women's lives have been ruined by this.
I hear you, and you have made your opinion very clear, and I'm sure that there are people of like minds that will also take on what you've said. But I remember we're talking to a diverse group of people.
That's why we must talk.
Yes, and that is why we need to correct if there's any corrections to be made, But let's take this call from Abdul Salam. Abdul Salam from Ilorin. Yes. Good morning, Abdul Salam.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I sympathize with Nymah, just like a lot of us.
Please go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. Like I said, I sympathize with Nymah.
Thank you, sir.
That is the way most Muslims who have been smart enough to follow the advice of the Prophet, that you need to seek for knowledge, even if you need to go as far as China to get it. And note, my mother, who is a Christian, the Bible says that my people die for lack of knowledge. So people just sit in the comfort of their rooms. There's an alcohol somewhere, there's a lecture somewhere. You just go there, listen, and take things hook, line, and sinker. This is what ends up happening. It's unfortunate if some people are saying they are ardent followers or listeners of this man. If this man is popular, he knows nothing. That's the truth. As far as Islam is concerned, he knows nothing.
Okay.
Half of more than half of what he pours out are rubbish. Now, there are some narrations that even tells us, that gives us the impression that the Prophet at one time or the other possibly even washed the clothes of his wife. You can think that from some of the narrations you get in the way he related with his wife. So bottom line is that this is not what Islam preaches.
Okay.
A lot of these men do not say this. If tomorrow I choose to take another wife, if you come visiting my wife today, the present situation in my present wife's room, and you are blindfolded the next day after I've married another woman, and you are taken to a room again, and blindfold is removed, you are asked where are you, you will say, same woman came yesterday. That is what Islam expects of us. It's not that you have a 32-inch TV in one woman's room, and you now put a smart TV for your 60 inches in another. This is as far as you are encouraged to treat your women. So a man should even be looking for something better than that washing machine his friend has in his own house. I should be looking for something better, a new model, and stuff like that. Without wasting much time, it's unfortunate that people just have data, they have access to the public, and they just say nonsense. But if you are equipped as a Muslim, you are safeguarded from all these things because you have already been told. Don't just sit and listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Abdul Salam.
So
I was just okay.
So I'm shocked that the two callers are called because they are kind of like supporting this whole thing. And one is saying that vocabulary, blah, blah, blah. If you do not have sufficient knowledge, you shouldn't even come out and preach anything. Don't come out and say anything that you are not sure of. If you see the way, in fact, this thing only happens in Africa, in Nigeria. It's only in Nigeria that this kind of a thing, you see this kind of a thing happening. Go to all these Arab countries where there are Muslims, that people like Saudi Arabia. I've been to Dubai. Have you seen any pregnant woman on the road? You hardly see a pregnant woman on the road. Because most of the time, if you see them on the road, once they are pregnant, they stay indoors. Their husbands take care of them full time. They don't even do much house chores. I've been in a store with a married man and a woman. Do you know, she doesn't even carry the product from the shelf. She will just point like this. It's the man that will go carry it from the shelf.
Arab woman?
Yes.
Okay.
She will just carry it. He'll be the one that will carry that thing from the shelf and put it in the cart. That's to tell you how they value their women and how their women are not supposed to labor through. A woman, if you make a woman labor with all this hard work, she gets overwhelmed and you break her.
I like that.
Islam does not support all of this. In fact, Islam favors women if we do what it says.
So I like where we have finally landed, which is where I wanted us to go. So two things, you know. I wanted us to question interpretation and realize that people would interpret the scripture, the Quran, you know, at their level of understanding, level of education and exposure. That's one. Secondly, and so that brings the question about theological schools, like for Christianity, they need to go to school. And there've always been the conversation in Christianity, which is we have a crop of spiritual leaders who say they are pastors or they are spiritual leaders just based off of a feeling. You know, I was called. But we had people who would go to under a scholar or on a proper school, get trained, they are taught, you know, and educated on what scripture means. And so that when they tell people, they tell it exactly as what scripture you know, means. And you will find that the interpretation is nearly similar across board. But then we have a group of people who they are led, and depending on how they want to interpret it, you know, it's interpreted. Is there something like that in Islam? That, you know, where people can also, so what happens is if there's a miscommunication or misinterpretation, you also have a body that is able to call you and speak to you, especially with Orthodox churches. I know that they do that. Is there a body like that that can correct and seek account, make sure that they are accountable for some of their words? And if a mistake like as serious as this is made, what steps does he take to correct it publicly as well?
Someone has sent a message that he already apologized because he was already caught. So there are schools that you go to, and we actually study. I did Islamic transactions for Islamic financing for a full session. And I couldn't even certify myself qualified because I had not taken additional courses. So I would not sit and advise you financially Islamically, even though I know all the options. So limiting yourself to your knowledge, because Islam is a religion of the book. We were left with two things. When the Prophet ﷺ left, he said, I have left you with the Quran and the sayings, the hadiths. And so there are these, all of his sayings, his practices were collected into a book. And even in interpreting that into daily new incidences, it's called a process itself. And that process, I always say, I don't even try to do it. I can only apply it personally. I do not advise it after applying it personally. So if there's a new issue, like currently now, there are certain issues that did not exist at the time of the Prophet. For instance, let me explain how the ruling on flogging for alcohol consumption was reached. During the Prophet's time, flogging was the minimum punishment that existed at the time, and alcohol was forbidden. It was not prescribed in the words of God himself in the Quran. Eventually, I think one of the caliphs, I think Umar, reached and said, okay, for consuming alcohol because it's dangerous to society, this will now be the punishment, reaching a fatwa. And such rulings are not handled by, they are not handled by people who can claim to know and not to know. They are not handled by people who do not hold themselves to account or limit themselves to a knowledge that they have. It's not for just everybody. Because I hold a platform, I'll just come and laugh. When I want to do something that is not religious on the table, you will see me, I will tell you I'm joking.
Okay.
I don't come and say, no, this is what God has said. I am quoting, I'm God's voice.
Okay, well, we have to, you know, we have to begin the wrap up of this particular conversation. And if you have just something to say concerning this, just a little, and then I would like Tokpe to
Okay, so
conclude.
I'll add something to what Nymah said. So the Quran, right, it's, we follow the Quran. Quran is God's words. But the hadiths is mainly the prophet's life, how he lived his life. Doesn't mean that the prophet didn't make mistakes. He made his mistakes. And some of the things is just to clarify how to do certain things. Like, for example, in the Quran, there's a place where God says, give out zakah, give zakah. Zakah is tithe. You understand? But he didn't state how it should be done. But we will now go to the hadiths and use the hadiths, how the prophet did it. So it's going to guide us on how to give, you know, to give out this zakah. So most of the time, when you refer to hadiths for some certain things, doesn't necessarily mean it's coming from the Quran. I just want the public to know that there's a difference.
So, Tokpe, I think if I was putting that question to you, it would be, how do we make sure that spirituality is not used to entrench patriarchy, you know, and gender inequality? Because, as we know, culture definitely influences how we interpret scripture.
I think that at the end of the day, each individual must take responsibility for their own life and educate themselves. That's the core responsibility. I must educate myself so I don't get taken advantage of. However, there must be governments, policies to protect the ones who are not educated and can be taken advantage of. So the CAC, that's the CAC, CAC as per registration, Corporate Affairs Commission, had a policy around religious organizations, and there was a change that implemented that there must be bodies that correct and manage
and keep them accountable.
Yeah, we need to implement. We have enough rules to protect Nigerians.
There was protest against
we just need to. They did not remove it. It's still there.
It's still there.
So there must be.
It was for change of body management of bodies.
Yes.
Over 20 years. That was the
and also having.
But government tried to
checks.
regulate religion and preaching publicly, even in Kaduna. I remember people were questioning, but you need to get the criteria to permit people.
We are run
to
out
talk.
of time. Out of time. I said out of time.
Sorry.
Are you done, Tope?
Individuals to take responsibility for themselves, government to protect those who cannot. So we need the government to step in. This show and our conversation now is educating individuals to take responsibility and also informing government that you can't let this fester, because that's how you have situations where somebody will say swallow pig or swallow something and they kill themselves just because they are holding a mic and claiming to be called by God. Please, government, step in and do your own.
I know I've been thoroughly educated on this today, and I'm sure our viewers have been too. And that's all we can take on this segment. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, we'll look into Let's Talk for today. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.